All right, good morning. Good morning. This is Gary Meek living in Sacramento, and I've got one of my favorite people on. I've got Mr. Casey Fairchild. He is going to be talking to us today about inspections, and he's not my favorite person because he's an inspector. He's my favorite person just because he's an amazing human being. We have a great friendship, and we go to church together, so we've got some similarities there. But he is also my go-to home inspector. So you're watching this video because you have signed up with us, you have showed some interest in our information, and you are probably going through the series that talks about the home buying process, everything from meeting, your agent at an open house, to looking at pretty houses, to getting pre-approved, to getting into escrow and writing a contract. And now we're in that inspection period, and we're going to be going through some inspections. So, Mr. Fairchild, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself to get started?
Hey, good morning. Yes, I'm Casey Fairchild. I'm owner-operator of Fairchild Home Inspections. And I've owned this company for about 10 years. I love what I do. My job is to represent clients. My job is to represent sellers. Inspect all types of homes, whether it's new construction, warranty inspections. That's for us buyers, so I do home, mobile homes, swimming pools. Try to cover the whole range of inspections when a client is looking to buy or sell a home.
Very cool, very cool. So we're going to go ahead and put Casey's information below: name, phone number, email address. Ultimately, if you're working with myself and my team, we're going to always recommend Casey as our number one. You obviously have the right to choose your inspectors. We're never going to tell you guys who you have to use. But like I said, been working with Casey pretty much that probably entire 10 years. I'm going to guess we've done 50 to 80 inspections together over that time. And like I said, we're not just work business associates. We are friends as well. Casey actually officiated my wedding last year in 2022. So he is a man of many trades, jack of all trades, kind of does them all. So, but we're going to talk inspections today. So we have talked about properties. I've probably shown you properties. Somebody on the team has shown you properties. We've gotten you pre-approved. We've gone through the contract process. We maybe even talked about disclosures. We've gone out and seen a house. We've written an offer. You signed it. We're probably in escrow now. And then it's inspection time. Now, normally we got 17 days to do inspection, and we try and make our offers look extremely aggressive. So sometimes we'll trim that down to 10 days. So if I know we're getting close to getting a property in escrow, I'm usually giving you a couple of names, or I'm saying, hey, I would really like to use Casey. I think he's going to be the best one for you. Obviously, the buyer gets to make that decision. And I'm usually calling Casey ahead of time and saying, hey, what's your schedule look like this week? So I know that, hey, we can get this inspection done in that time period, whatever it is, 5, 10, 17 days. So we are now at inspections, and Casey's going to show up to the property. Usually I'm going to unlock the door, kind of let him in. If the house is vacant, it's easy. If the seller is, still living there, most likely the seller or the listing agent will not be there. It will be Casey and myself kind of getting started. And then we're going to bring you, the buyers, in kind of towards the end to get a recap from Casey. Hopefully with work schedules, you can do that and get out to the inspection. But Casey's report is so detailed, great information, great pictures. But Casey, why don't you walk us through the basic inspection, a 1,600 square foot house. Kind of tell us what you're looking for, what you're, responsible for, and kind of how you're going to lay that out for somebody.
Gary, when I arrive at the house, I always start at the front door. I want to make sure the house is open. I want to make sure if there's a homeowner there. When I leave myself, hand them my card, let them know who's on their property. Everybody should know who's on that property.
Yep.
If the client's there, obviously, we introduce ourselves to each other and let them know that I'm there to work for them. I'm there to inspect a house for them. And so I always start on the outside. I work with the exterior, typically go exterior finishes, which includes all, fencing, whatever I can get on the property. I do a garage, and then if the roof is accessible and safe, I'd love to get on that roof and give it a look. I always recommend a roofer because the roof is part of that weather envelope. I'm going to look at that weather envelope on the exterior, windows, finishes, and anything that has something to report on. I'm going to make sure that it is in that report. Once I finish on the outside, I like to go inside and work with bedrooms and bathrooms to living areas. Okay? Depending on the size of the structure or depending on the type of the home, it's usually a pretty consistent pattern. Just start from one end where the bedrooms are and you end up in the kitchen. I like to finish in the attic at the end because I want to go around and look at the ceilings or look at the court. I want to make sure if there's something coming from the top that I can go in the attic and address it. I also crawl under a house at the end because I want to run all the water. I want to run all the fixtures. I want to run the dishwasher. I want to run appliances. I want to fill the sinks. I want to fill the tub. I want to make sure that there's maximum amount of water that can go through the drainage system. All the hot and cold systems can operate. If something under the house is going to show up or leak or going to have a liability to get under there and have the best opportunity to represent my client with what's under that house, because that's my job. My job to go into that house and take a look. So, of course, we all love a nice slab because it's wonderful. But my job is from every system and component that house has is my job to try and evaluate it from roof to crawl. Now, if it's full of furniture, we're not going to move furniture. We're not going to take the chance of damaging some of the personal items. Every report should have a batch of pictures, a batch of photos that represent what I am trying to convey in that inspection report. I do not like to post people's personal items. I do like to post an item that has a comment on it. It's also good to break it down into a couple of categories. I try to keep it super simple. Cover page, simple explanations of the report, red items like safety issues, fire life and safety issues, areas that are maybe of more of a concern of a cost or something that's damaged. Okay. And then the rest of the report will have areas of handyman or things that can be fixed. There's everything in the house can be fixed. That's what's awesome. The other report reflects everything in that home that has something that could be represented that needs to be addressed. Best part of my section is the walk. I mean, if the homeowner is available to come for the walkthrough, come out, let's have some fun, let's walk the property together, let's look at things, let's answer every question that our clients have regarding this important purpose. So there's a rundown of what I love to do. I love people. Prior to being an inspector, I was a superintendent for the builders. I was an iron worker in the area. Did a lot of TIs. I did a lot of federal work, a lot of contract work, a lot of acquisitions, and a lot of construction. And I really prefer not to do the work anymore. So it's really great to take everything that I have been able to put in this brain, thank you, Lord, and apply it to a home, or apply it to a swimming pool, or apply it to a condo, or apply it to a multiplex, or a mobile home, or whatever it is I can serve that client.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, I mean, I know you've even done a building for us, a commercial building that someone was purchasing. So we've seen the gamut of it for sure. You mentioned something in there, and when people will get to the pest inspection video, they'll hear that the pest inspector is at the end of their report going to give a detailed cost evaluation. And that's actually one thing we didn't talk about on yours. Let's talk about that. Do you give a cost evaluation? Which I already know the answer, obviously.
I really try not to. I really try not to. It's really not my job to give estimates on repairs.
Gotcha.
Because I am not a general contractor. I just don't want to be a general contractor. It's not fun to me anymore. I've been there. I'm not interested in it. But I do not really like to give hard costs on what the repairs would be. I mean, there's can be some estimating, but really in my world, it's not really fair to offer a price to a client and not knowing what those acquisition costs would be. What those material costs, the labor costs, or things that you can't see.
Yeah, especially over the last couple of years, as things, wood at one point was triple what it was, 2 years ago, and obviously things have settled down now. But we really take the inspection reports, whether that be home inspection, pest inspection, sewer, pool, roof, whatever, and then we ultimately take that bid and we usually give it to a general contractor and say, hey, can you bid this out for us? Sometimes I'll sit with the homeowner if they've got a decent skill set, and most people do have some kind of handiwork, and we'll assess a lot of those pieces and then we will negotiate the contract again and say, hey, we were offered $500,000, but there's repairs. Casey noted a water heater and, HVAC system and, broken window and whatever those things are. We take that information and then we ultimately say we want a $5,000 credit. And of course, we don't ask you for those numbers because then that puts the onus on you. So we get a contractor, give us those numbers. That's how we negotiate at a later time. So
yeah, exactly, Gary. My inspection report is a tool. It's an opportunity for everybody to see the condition of that home, and it gives you an opportunity to do your job. It gives our clients an opportunity to see with a non-bias or I'm not connected to the house in any emotional attachment. I'm there just to do my job and represent that house. And so it's a really great tool for everybody to be able to see the condition of this home.
Gotcha. And I'm going to actually attach a report that Casey's done for us in the past year. I'll obviously, delete the address and some of the information. But Casey, give me a couple of maybe highlights. What are some of the major, maybe not even major, what are some of the most common red items you see when you're out doing a home inspection?
Probably say a lot of windows.
Okay.
There's a lot of glass that has, what we'll call them failures, or we'll call them hazing or discoloration. There's a lot of glass that just quits producing its UV protection or whatever over time. The sun's very powerful.
Yeah.
It does a lot of work on the windows. So there's a lot of windows that I see that need some attention. There's a lot of gutters full of leaks. There's a lot of fence posts that are loose. What I'll try to do is, if the property's not massive, I will go post on every post.
Oh wow!
Try to get a number, because everything adds up. So windows, fences, gutters. If you deal with the inside of houses, there's a fair amount of problems with some leaks that drain assemblies under sinks and to some different stuff like that. But I always try to look out for damaged wood as well. This is where you usually call it pest inspection. You come out and give you a inspection on. We try to double up. A lot of times the guys in the pest world or the section 1 world or that inspection world, we'll try to team up and look out for each other because we're all working for the client.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I was thinking water heater. I think that's probably the thing I see more than anything else. TPV valve, it's leaking, it's rusting, corroded. We look at timeline. Is it 10 years old? Is it 20 years old? But obviously more than anything else, I think it's the strapping, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of water heaters that they're not strapped right, or they're not strapped at all.
Yep.
Or when they wrap them around a blanket. There's definitely, Gary, there's definitely water heaters that have installed, 20 years ago, and they're not making an update, or the water leaks are so high, I'm going to stand up on a ladder, I'm going to get up high so I can see what's going on top of that water heater. I'm going to pull the covers off to see if the bottom side is rusted out or older or ready for an upgrade. A lot of times the water works just fine in the house.
Yeah.
Fill a sink and you see it's discolored. Or you'll start pulling a water heater up. You're opening up a little bit to realize that this water heater needs to be addressed, due for service or due for an update. So definitely areas of that water heater that we've got to look out for.
Gotcha. And then you mentioned attic. What kind of things do we find in the attic? What are some of the just common stuff you see?
Most common I see in the attic is poor insulation.
Oh, okay.
Poor insulation. Someone's either crawled through it, or the guy that's come out to do your satellite, is climbed through, and they've displaced all the insulation. So there's a lot of insulation repairs, typically in the attic, where there'll be a number of areas where I can see that the vents are not hooked up, not fans, not attached, or someone will do a repair on ductwork and they don't use the proper tape, don't use the proper material. So those are some of the more common ones that you can see in the attic. Or if you can get to the gable vents, get to the gables, just all the trusses on the ends of the house. Sometimes you'll see areas where the paper's not right, and areas you can look for any kind of moisture that might come through.
Gotcha. Okay. And I know another thing we talk about is GFCI. Older homes built in the 60s didn't have grounds originally. Areas, around water don't have GFCI. Let's chat about that real quick.
Yes, that's for sure, Gary. And first off, my job is not to call any code.
Yeah.
Home inspectors are not code enforcers.
True.
If I was to go out and do an inspection to call code, the 20-year-old house just wouldn't pass because that was not code at the time. But anytime I can find a house that has GFCI, I'll let it test it. I want to test them all. I want to know where they trip, how they trip. When I say trip, I mean test them all along.
Okay.
Outlets for reverse polarity. I'm checking the outlets for grounding, proper grounding. I'm checking the GFCIs to make sure that if you get wet and you touch that outlet, that outlet's going to turn off.
Okay.
Also, sometimes your GFCIs are built into the panel. So sometimes the plugs in the house will represent condition of the panel to some degree, depending on the type of panel it is. So there's a correlation to outlets to power that we can always look at as a home inspector.
Gotcha. Okay. We've talked about water. We've talked about electrical. We've talked about roofing. I mean, the only thing left, I would say, is probably the HVAC system. Let's touch on that one real quick.
HVAC is fun because, if it's cold outside, the first thing I do when I get there is I want to see if it's cold inside. I want my clients warm.
Yep.
Go in and turn it on. Weather always determines what we can test.
True.
60 degrees outside, I am not supposed to turn on the air conditioner. It's not good for the system. It's not good for the units.
Okay.
So I like it when it's that perfect 70, 75, 80 degree day and I can test them both.
Okay.
I like to, home inspectors only test them through the thermostat.
Okay.
But we pull up the serial numbers, we pull up the model numbers. We should be able to determine the type of system it is, always the production age, type of freon, and type of power that's supplied to it. You look for split systems, you look for dual zone systems, you identify where the HVAC systems are, whether the heat is in the attic or in the garage. Condensers are typically outside, or you have a big roof unit. A lot of times there's one big unit on the roof. You want to know what that system is doing. You want to make sure it's draining right. You want to make sure the overflow pans are installed. Pull the covers off of everything that we possibly can. Ask if there's any service records to make sure that there's something along service structure. A lot of times in some cities, you'll see systems that are 20 years old and they have great service records, and sometimes they just don't. So it's not a bad idea to get a HVAC system inspection, depending on the age of the unit.
Gotcha.
I always like to test the temperature at the vents as well, and identify where all your filters are, where they are at, and see if there's a filter or what kind of condition. Identify every part of that system.
Cool. Very good, my man. Well, from my view, I think we've kind of touched on everything. And like I said, the home inspection is really the start. If we find out that there's an issue within the home inspection, specifically electrical or plumbing or HVAC, then we usually, based on your information, will go and get a secondary inspection and dig into that deeper, whether it's a ducting issue or if we've got, some mold somewhere. Which, I've sold 600 homes in my career. I've dealt with mold maybe 5 to 10 times. And most of the time it's a minor issue. So, it's something that can be tested, but it's not something that's very common. So,
yeah, that's an interesting word. You'll never see that word on my report.
Okay.
You'll see maybe discoloration or something, because I don't have in order for me to make a certain call on what it is, I have to test it.
Gotcha.
And I do not want to misrepresent that, because sometimes it might just be from a shower in a steamy room.
Gotcha.
So it's definitely something that we need to look for. Something that's discolored or whatnot. And you're right, it is not common. It's not an overly common area, but it's definitely part of our world.
Yeah.
You have to have water to survive.
Yep. Very cool, my man. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on with us today. Like I said, folks, thanks. Casey's, like I said, one of the best inspectors in the area. Most of the top agents are using him. His information is going to be below in our YouTube. And like I said, if you're working with my team, we're going to recommend him as our number one. And so that's all we got for you today. We appreciate you chiming in and checking us out. And Casey, thank you, my man, for being here. hopefully we will catch up soon, brother.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks, everybody. Have an awesome day.
All right, man. Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.